My name is Amanda, and I walked away at the airport. You heard that right. After years of being treated like my sister's unpaid babysitter, I finally said no. Picture this, we're all packed for a dream Hawaii vacation. The smell of sunscreen, the sound of kids screaming, the chaos of boarding, and my sister suddenly shoves her twin strollers into my hands and says, "You'll watch them on the flight, right?" This time, I smiled, and walked away. When my phone started exploding with messages, "You ruined our vacation," I knew my silence was louder than any revenge plan. But to understand why I did it, you need to know how my family turned me into their doormat first. If you've ever been used, dismissed, or guilt-tripped by family, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next isn't just revenge, it's liberation. This is one of those stories where saying no changed everything. For most of my life, I've been the family's responsible one. You know the type, the reliable daughter, the backup babysitter, the person who fixes everything when everyone else screws up. Except somewhere along the line, responsible became used. My sister Chloe and I were close once. Growing up, she was wild and spontaneous, the kind of girl who'd skip curfew and talk her way out of trouble. I was the opposite, honor roll student, steady job, the planner. When Chloe had twins at 24, everyone looked at me like I'd just been promoted to unpaid staff. "She needs your help, Amanda," Mom said. "You don't have kids yet. You can manage." Manage. That word still grates on my nerves. At first, I helped out because I loved my nieces. Chloe was struggling, single mom, 2 colicky babies, a mess of bills. I'd drive across town after work, babysit so she could nap, clean bottles, fold laundry. No thank yous. Just a casual, "You're a lifesaver, sis," before she'd disappear to hang out with friends. When I finally tried to pull back, saying I had deadlines or needed weekends for myself, she'd act hurt. "Wow, you've really changed, Amanda. You used to be so caring." That guilt worked every single time. For 5 years, I became her fallback plan. Christmas dinners? I'd be in the kitchen wrangling toddlers while everyone else toasted champagne. Family barbecues? I'd chase the twins while Chloe flirted with her latest boyfriend. My parents even praised her for being a devoted mom, while I quietly kept her world from falling apart. Then came the vacation. Our parents had always dreamed of a big family trip. Dad had saved airline miles for years. Finally, he announced, "We're going to Hawaii. All of us. Sun, sand, and peace." I remember thinking, maybe this would be different. Maybe Chloe would step up and we'd actually enjoy being sisters again. I bought new luggage, ordered matching swimsuits for the girls, even made a color-coded itinerary. Classic Amanda move. A week before departure, though, I started noticing red flags. Chloe texted, "Hey, can you share a room with the twins? I just need a break." I laughed it off, assumed she was joking. Then Mom called and said, "Amanda, you don't mind helping Chloe on the flight, right? She gets overwhelmed easily." There it was again, the invisible contract I never signed. By the night before departure, my gut screamed this trip would be another round of Amanda handles everything. I told myself, not this time. At 5 a.m., the morning of the flight, the airport buzzed with chaos. Rolling suitcases, crying kids, coffee lines. I'd barely zipped my own carry-on when Chloe started up, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, twins dragging behind her. She dumped their backpacks into my arms without a hello. "Here, can you keep an eye on them? I have to grab a smoothie. They'll scream if they don't get one." I froze. My parents were already checking in bags, pretending not to notice. "Chloe," I said, calm but sharp, "I'm not your babysitter today. You can handle your own kids." She blinked, confused, like I'd spoken a foreign language. "Oh come on, Amanda. Don't start. You know how they get." And that's when it hit me, they all assumed I'd cave. Everyone did. The same way I always had. I looked down at the twins, tiny, restless, clutching stuffed animals, and felt a rush of something I hadn't felt in years, anger, and clarity. If I didn't change things now, they never would. When the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal, Chloe returned, phone in one hand, smoothie in the other. You got them, right? I'll meet you on the plane. She turned to walk away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't move. I placed the twins' backpacks neatly on the bench beside me. Took a deep breath. And walked the other direction, out of the terminal, through security, and straight toward the parking lot. My hands were shaking, heart pounding, but every step felt like shedding years of invisible chains. Behind me, the airport intercom buzzed with boarding calls and distant crying. I kept walking. By the time my phone started buzzing, first from Chloe, then Mom, then Dad, I was already sitting in my car. Message after message rolled in. Chloe, Amanda, where are you? The twins are crying. Mom, this isn't funny. You're ruining the trip. Chloe, you ruined our vacation. For the first time ever, I didn't answer. I started the car and drove home, not in guilt, but in peace. Because maybe they'd finally learn what happens when the family doormat finally walks away. The drive home was both terrifying and freeing. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, but a strange calm washed over me, the kind you feel when you've finally done the thing you were too scared to do for years. I knew the storm was coming. And oh, it came fast. By the time I got home, my phone was lighting up like fireworks. 27 missed calls. 17 messages. Every one angrier than the last. Mom's voice filled my voicemail first. Amanda, what were you thinking? They can't handle the kids without you. Then Chloe's text popped up. You're unbelievable. The twins are screaming, Mom's crying, and Dad's furious. You ruined our vacation. I stared at the screen, those words felt heavy, but also, hollow. For once, they weren't mine to fix. I silenced my phone, drew the curtains, and sat down on my couch. For years, my home had felt like a pit stop between obligations. That day, it felt like mine. But by the next morning, guilt started creeping back in. Old habits die hard. I opened social media, and sure enough, there it was. A picture of my family on the plane, Chloe posting a half-smile selfie captioned. Some people just love ruining things. Guess not everyone's made for family. The comments from relatives rolled in fast. So selfish. Poor Chloe, she does everything for those kids. Amanda's always been cold. My stomach twisted. They didn't even know the truth. Then, a message from my dad. Amanda, we're disappointed. You embarrassed your sister at the airport. We'll talk when we get back. Embarrassed? That word hit harder than I expected. I had spent years saving Chloe from embarrassment, cleaning her messes, covering her lateness, pretending her chaos was cute. But now I was the villain. For 2 days, I didn't respond. I went for long walks, cooked real meals, even watched a movie in silence. It was weird, like remembering who I used to be before I was everyone's helper. Then came the video call. Chloe's face filled the screen, red and puffy. The ocean sparkled behind her, kids screaming in the distance. You're seriously not gonna apologize, she snapped. For what? I asked quietly. For abandoning us. You could have at least helped until we landed. I took a slow breath. No, Chloe. You mean I could have helped like I always do, while you relax? She blinked, then scoffed. Wow. You're so dramatic. All you had to do was keep them quiet. It's not that hard. That line, it's not that hard, was the final crack in the wall. I smiled sadly and said. Then you'll have no problem doing it yourself. Before she could answer, I ended the call. That was the first time I realized, standing up for yourself doesn't always feel like revenge. Sometimes, it just feels like finally breathing. But little did I know, the real backlash hadn't even begun yet. When they got back from Hawaii, the silence was louder than any fight. For 3 whole days, not a single message, not even a passive-aggressive text. I almost started to believe maybe, just maybe, they were done guilt-tripping me. Then Sunday dinner happened. I arrived at my parents' house more out of habit than desire. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, but the warmth that usually came with it was gone. Mom barely looked at me. Dad's jaw was tight, eyes flicking toward Chloe, who was scrolling her phone like she owned the place. "So," Dad said finally, breaking the tension. "Anything you'd like to say, Amanda?" I folded my hands on the table. "About what?" Chloe slammed her phone down. "Don't play dumb. You ditched us at the airport. Do you know how hard that flight was with 2 toddlers screaming for 6 hours? I looked at her, mascara perfectly done, new tan glowing. "You survived," I said quietly. Her jaw dropped. "You're unbelievable. We could have been thrown off that plane." People were staring. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. "You embarrassed the whole family. You should have helped. That's what family does." The old version of me would have apologized. Would have tried to fix it, offered to make dinner next week, or babysit to prove I wasn't selfish. But that version of me was gone. "I did help," I said firmly. 4 years. Every vacation. Every holiday. Every meltdown. I helped when nobody else even noticed I was drowning too. Mom frowned. "Amanda, she's your sister. She just needed a break." "A break?" I laughed, a bitter sound that startled even me. "She's had a 5-year break, Mom. From responsibility, from reality, from her own kids." The room went dead silent. Chloe's face twisted. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Just because you don't have kids, you have no idea how hard it is." "Maybe," I said softly, "but I know what it's like to raise kids that aren't mine." That did it. She stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You're toxic. You always make everything about you." "Funny," I said, I was about to say the same thing. Mom's eyes filled with tears, Dad muttered something about family unity, but it was too late. The truth had been festering for years, and now it was out, raw and unstoppable. I stood, grabbed my purse, and said the words I'd been rehearsing in my mind since that day at the airport. "I'm done being your backup plan. I love you all, but I'm done." Chloe scoffed. "You'll come crawling back when you realize you've got no one left." I smiled faintly. "Then I guess I'll finally learn what peace feels like." As I walked out of that house, I realized something important. Sometimes, the breaking point isn't the moment you explode. It's the moment you stop explaining yourself. At first, my revenge didn't look like revenge at all, it looked like peace. No screaming matches. No explanations. Just distance. After that dinner, I stopped attending family gatherings. I muted the group chat. I didn't respond to "Can you babysit this weekend?" or "We really need you for just one favor." I even unfollowed Chloe on social media, something I'd never dared before. At first, it felt wrong. Guilt had been my second skin for years. But slowly, I started to notice something beautiful: silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean isolation, it means freedom. I poured all the time I used to give away into myself. I started painting again, took weekend trips with friends, even joined a hiking group. My coworkers noticed the change first. "You look lighter, Amanda," one said. "Like you're actually living." And I was. Meanwhile, word spread through the family grapevine that Chloe was struggling, really struggling. Without me as her fallback, she was finally forced to manage her own life. Missed daycare pickups, late work shifts, canceled dates. She even called Mom crying one night, saying, "I can't do this alone." Mom's response, apparently, was, "Now you know how Amanda felt." When I heard that, I didn't gloat, but I did smile. Then one Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. Chloe again. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was shaky. "Hey. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For the way I treated you. I stayed quiet. It's been rough. I didn't realize how much you did. I thought you just liked helping. That one sentence, I thought you just liked helping, said everything. She had never seen me as a person with boundaries, just a tool that made her life easier. I helped because I cared, I said gently. But caring doesn't mean being used. She sniffled. Yeah. I get that now. For the first time, it wasn't manipulation. It sounded real. Over the next few months, Chloe started changing, actually changing. She took parenting classes, got a better job, even started scheduling time for herself. She never said it out loud, but I knew the lesson hit deep. And me? I learned that sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's when the people who drained you finally have to face life without your energy. By summer, I finally took that Hawaii trip, alone this time. I walked the same beaches my family once blamed me for missing, but instead of guilt, I felt pride. Because walking away wasn't running, it was reclaiming myself. Hawaii was everything I dreamed it would be: warm sand, turquoise waves, and peace that felt earned. I spent my mornings sipping coffee on the balcony and my nights watching sunsets bleed gold over the horizon. It was the same place my family once said I ruined, and yet here I was, happier, calmer, and finally free of their chaos. One evening, I got a message from Chloe. Just a photo, her twins, laughing on a playground. The caption read, "Doing it all by myself today. You were right. No grand apology. No excuses." But it meant everything. Because for the first time, Chloe wasn't asking for help, she was owning her role. And that was the real payoff. I realized then that revenge isn't always about making others suffer. Sometimes, it's about showing them that your life goes on, brighter, stronger, untouched by their control. I didn't ruin their vacation. I saved my sanity. A week later, when I returned home, Mom invited me for dinner again. This time, the tone was different. The conversation was soft. She told me she'd been thinking a lot about how unfairly things had been handled. "We depended on you too much," she admitted. "You were the glue, Amanda, but even glue needs rest." It was the closest thing to an apology I ever got from my parents. And honestly, it was enough. Chloe eventually came over with the twins, no attitude, no entitlement. She hugged me tight and whispered, "I miss my sister." And just like that, something healed. I didn't need to gloat or remind them what they'd done. The lesson had already settled in their lives like sand after a storm. I learned that sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply letting people face themselves, without rescuing them from the mirror. These days, I live differently. My boundaries aren't up for debate. If I say no, it's not anger, it's peace. I travel solo, laugh louder, and surround myself with people who give as much as they take. And occasionally, when someone tries to guilt-trip me into doing something I don't want, I just smile and think, not this time. Because walking away that day didn't ruin a vacation, it began a new life. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you heartless, it makes you whole. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence, and the strongest love you can give is to yourself. If Amanda's story hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Tell us in the comments, have you ever walked away from someone who took you for granted? Because sometimes, the best revenge is peace.